Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they basically have always had the same core beliefs. New Light, they think, only clarifies some beliefs sometimes, but their religion has, at its core, never changed. And that couldn't be further away from the truth. In reality, the Jehovah's Witness religion from today has nothing to do with the religion it was a mere 40 years ago. In fact, throughout my research, I found that this religion has had not one, not two, but 5 completely different iterations across the years. 5 different versions of the Jehovah's Witnesses that are fundamentally different religions. And in this new series, I'm gonna show you the real history of the Jehovah's Witnesses, version by version, starting with the very first one, the one made by Charles Taze Russell. But before we get started, do you want a real Sparlock the Warrior Wizard? My mom made me throw mine out, but now I got one back and you can too. I'll be making only 10 of them and you can buy one of 9 in my website xjwklib.com. And I'll be giving one out at the end of April to one of my lucky YouTube subscribers or Patreons. You can join them for free by becoming a free Patreon member to participate. Russell was born and raised in a Presbyterian family, but he drifted from mainstream Christianity when he was young and ended up joining a cult, the Adventists. Back then, the Adventist movement was highly influenced by the writings of William Miller. He had made huge waves when he used Bible maths and the prophecies in Daniel to predict that Jesus would return around the year 1843 and 1844. At the time, people were becoming more and more religious in the United States, so a ton of people actually wanted to join his movement. When Jesus didn't come back in 1844, it caused what was later called the Great Disappointment. However, multiple Millerites were coping hard with it, thinking that William Miller was right in principle, but that he merely got the Bible maths wrong. One of these Millerites was Nelson Barber, who started producing content with his series in the YouTube channel equivalent of that time, publishing books and pamphlets. He believed that Jesus had already come, but that he did it invisibly in 1874 and would become visible to judge the earth in the near future of 1878. And that is when Russell comes in. He found one of those pamphlets so captivating and accurate that he sold his 5 clothing stores to associate with Barber and fund the publishing of his new 2 books preparing for the coming of Christ in 1878. When the prophecy didn't come true, Russell thought, hey, I already have this print shop equipment anyway, let's use it to publish tracts and Bibles and make money. And he co-funded the Science Watchtower Tract Society. He wasn't trying to start a religion, he was trying to start a literature company to share Barber's ideas about Christianism and the end of the world, and then to sell Bibles and tracts. But that wasn't everything that they were gonna sell. Because by now, Russell had his own theories of where Miller went wrong and how to fix the Bible math to find out when Jesus was coming back. So he realized that, instead of publishing Barber's ideas, he should be publishing his own. That's when he published the first issue of his new magazine, Zion's Watchtower and Herald of Christ's Presence, in 1879. This magazine wasn't just a side project, it became the blood of the movement. The place where Russell explained doctrine routinely, corrected rivals, and built loyalty with readers. Now that he had his own publishing company, Russell became a prolific writer, and a successful one too. The year he founded his publishing company, he issued a tract called Food for Thinking Christians, using donated funds to support the printing, and he sold 1.5 copies in just 4 months. He used this newfound popularity to publish a few other books before publishing a huge 6-volume series called Millennial Dawn in 1904, later renamed to Studies in the Scriptures, distributing over 20 million copies. Because remember, books and tracts were how people consumed content back in the day, and Russell was coming up with fresh and controversial content of Christianity. In his writings, he argued against the doctrine of the Trinity and against the existence of an immortal soul or eternal hell. But most importantly, he argued for his new and improved Millerite-inspired maths to calculate when Jesus was finally coming back. He proposed a few dates, finally landing on 1914, the year when the Gentile times will end, all governments would collapse, and Christ would start ruling earth from heaven. And he had the Pyramid of Giza to prove it. Russell thought that the Great Pyramid of Giza was God's stone witness that the Bible talks about, and he went to measure the inner chambers with pyramid inches, which, wouldn't you know it, pointed out to 1914 being the end of the world. Pyramidology was super popular back then, so many Christians found Russell's ideas refreshingly hip and new, mixing obscure Bible lore with the current facts. If these ideas sound stupid or random, that's because they are. Russell himself identified as a pastor and sold books pretending to be one, but he was a fake pastor because he had no studies, he had never been to seminar, and had no qualifications as a translator or scholar. He was simply one of the Christians who was captivated by Millerite ideas. Then he was captured by Nelson Barber's revision on Millerite ideas, and then he came up with his own revisions on Millerite ideas. He wasn't a pastor, he was a clothes store owner who decided to sell his stores to become a self-published writer instead, talking about his revised math on the end of the world. And he didn't just write books, he created all kinds of content. In 1914, he created the photodrama of creation using a revolutionary mix of hand-painted film, slides, and audio recordings to create an 8-hour recorded lecture. In an era where silent black and white films were the norm, it's easy to see why so many people flocked to see the photodrama of creation for the same reason that modern humans went to see the Avatar movie. To see not an interesting and compelling and unforgettable story, but a visual achievement in cinema. However, his life was plagued with controversies. He promoted in his Watchtower magazine a wheat strain called Miracle Wheat, a supposedly unique wheat strain that produced far more wheat than the average strain, except it didn't. They were just selling normal seeds at a huge markup. But what was Russell supposed to do? Check every advertiser who wanted to sell stuff on his magazine? His marriage also ended in divorce in 1906, and the public record shows that his separation went almost viral at the time. It was a messy divorce due to alleged beatings from Russell to his wife, followed by the press at every step of the way. By 1914, Russell's chronology had already been centered on that date for several years. But when 1914 came and went without any of his predictions coming true, Russell had to pivot. He then started teaching that 1914 marked the beginning of the Great Tribulation predicted in the Bible for the end times, postponed the date for the end of the world, and died in a toga in 1916. He left detailed instructions to give ownership of his company to a group of his closest followers and associates, which would not be honored, but I'm getting ahead of myself. To commemorate his death, a large pyramid monument was erected right next to his tomb, although it was removed by the current version of the Jehovah's Witness organization just a few years ago. So, how did it feel being a part of this organization back then? Well, originally, there was no organization. Being a part of this organization at first simply meant that you had purchased and liked Russell's books. Later on, his readers started congregating under the name Bible Students to study the Bible through Russell's publications. And Russell plain rejected a formal hierarchy. He didn't even teach that his movement was the only correct way of following the Bible. It was more like an addendum to Christianity. And he was fully against organized religion, so he insisted that his group kept no record of its members' names, no creeds, and no sectarian name. They were Bible students because they all simply studied the Bible with his publications. And there were all kinds of Christians in the movement because Russell tolerated a wide latitude of belief among members. You didn't have to agree with everything Russell taught to be a member, and could even openly have arguments and disagreements which were dealt with locally. And Russell never taught that his movement was the only correct movement. He was so friendly to other Christians because that was originally his audience. He wrote for other Christians like he was and merely proposed a whole bunch of different Bible-based interpretations that he had been working on. Then he invited others to disagree with him. Russell was also completely against centralized church discipline, teaching instead that only an entire congregation could disfellowship one of its members. It was the entire congregation that would decide whether someone deserved to be disfellowshipped after an open debate among all members. And disfellowshipping didn't mean a complete shun from everyone. It merely meant you weren't invited to attend their book club meetings anymore. Remember, he thought of himself as a Christian who just had a few different ideas about the Bible, so he was never against other Christians celebrating holidays or even their own birthday. All Bible students were expected to preach, but it was a completely different kind of preaching through congregational classes, giving speeches, and most importantly, giving home Bible studies with Russell's publications. There was no distributing literature door to door for free. For that, Russell employed paid booksellers or colporteurs who distributed Watchtower literature for a commission. All that literature was mainly produced through voluntary donations to help keep the literature price attractively low, making it easy for anyone to afford. Russell and his movement were so different to the Jehovah's Witness movement today that Russellites still exist and they still study Russell's books and teachings. The art in the publications look like this, not too different from newspaper caricatures of the time. So if you were a member of the movement back then, you called yourself a Bible student, you attended a religious self-governed book club to help teach and study Russell's books, and you believed that the end of the world was coming in 1914, when all governments would collapse and Jesus would start ruling Earth instead. Russell didn't create a cult, he just wanted to sell books and share his crazy ideas and ended up creating an apocalyptic glorified book club in the process. But lurking in the shadows, his successor had been patiently waiting for his turn. He would make sure that Russell's wishes weren't respected and that the control of his society wouldn't fall on a group of people, but it would fall on him. And he would take this movement and make it into a fully fledged cult. He was the fake judge, Joseph Rutherford. If you don't want to miss that chapter, make sure you're subscribed and maybe support me like these guys over here, or join my Patreon for free to get a chance to win a Sparlock.